What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Underrated and Overlooked podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in, man. Got another jam-packed show for you guys today. Craig brought up some good news to me of Lanier County, so we're going to get into that as well. Their latest hire, so we'll get into that. Talk a little bit about our underrated and overlooked players, our top five going into next season, and obviously into the spring practices. We'll get into a little bit of the Hall of Fame ballot that was released. So we'll talk about that as well, and then we'll get into some college. Obviously, Kirby Smart getting the record extension, making almost $13 million a year, and a couple Alabama players transferred out. Peyton Woodyard is one of them. A couple of their DBs. So we'll talk about that room with Max as well, and to conclude with top draft pick we're excited to see on our teams.
Absolutely. We'll get into the Kirby stuff, but I was thinking about this last night. I feel like Kirby isn't a coach that has like NFL aspirations. I think he might be at Georgia for a long time, and he might be that like the latest mainstay, legendary college coach. I mean, he's going to be there for decades.
Yeah, it's almost like Nick Saban. Like he went to
Exactly.
NFL, but then like he didn't have the success that he did on the collegiate level, and then you see where he is now.
No, man, he's Georgia bred. Went to Bainbridge. I mean, I just feel like he's going to be there forever. Like
I agree.
when we're 60, he might still be on that sideline.
Doing something.
Exactly.
No doubt about it. But we'll go get started. I'll let you start with your great news, Craig. You brought up to my attention. So talk a little bit about Lanier County and the awesome hire that they were able to get.
Yeah, so Lanier County's coach went over to Macon County. He was at Macon County, went to Lanier, basically built that program into their best season ever. And so it was kind of looking at the coaching changes, about 60 have happened so far. I'm like, what's going on with Lanier County? I said on the show multiple times, I felt like it would be an easy, smooth process because they hired this coach for 2 seasons. Then he went back to his old school kind of late in the offseason, figured they'd have pieces in place. Well, David Dean is their new head coach. He is a former Valdosta State National Championship college coach. He was head coach at West Georgia. And I mean, Yahoo Sports said it when it broke late last week, said this might be the most newsworthy, significant hire of the entire offseason. And there's been a lot. And so I think it's fascinating to have a guy that led Valdosta State to a national title going 14 miles down the road to a Class A Division II school in Valdosta, and now he's going to lead that program. I think it's awesome.
No doubt about it. And then, obviously with the great head coach coming in, do you think it'll be any, challenges or anything like that with him getting hired now and obviously spring practice is kicking off and the games? Do you think that'd be kind of a challenge for him?
It certainly is. But I do think since last year, they had so much success, best season ever. I think they were very careful with this process, but I think he's extremely motivated. And when you have a guy that has that much accomplishments at the college level, I feel like he is really kind of just grateful for this opportunity to get back to the roots. Guys that go from college to high school, they do it because that's where their true passion is. So I think he's going to have fun just getting to know these kids, and they'll have a legendary coach on the sideline. So what an opportunity with the college connections and just what they're going to be playing for.
And then let me ask you this, Craig. Obviously, you've seen coaches transition from high school, going to college to high school. What's kind of the rate and success that college coaches have coming to high school, and being able to be effective with the team and kind of hit the ground running?
Yeah, so Georgia's interesting. We actually have a couple of brothers that their brother is a head coach in college and they're head coach in high school. The Muschamps at Lovett, and then the Napiers at LaGrange, and obviously University of Florida. I think the success is there, but I think at the end of the day, it comes down to high school is just like more fun for them. A lot of them go to college, and the things they have to deal with are just so different. The recruiting, the day to day, and then for him to go to a smaller school, I feel like that's going to be a major difference, and he'll just be able to focus on his guys and leading them out there on Friday nights. And if you're a true football fan, like obviously these coaches are that put their heart and soul into it, I feel like this is just a part of his career where he's going to be excited to get back to the roots in Valdosta.
No doubt about it. And then another big coaching hire was Clinch County. I know Max was talking to him as well. Jim Dickerson, they decided to move in another direction, but a pretty illustrious career, won 5 state championships recently in 2018. What's your thoughts on that hire?
It is pretty awesome. So the first thing that stood out reminds me of Jeff Herron last year at Camden County. He was in retirement. He previously led them to a state title. Camden County needed a head coach. They had a couple mediocre years, to say the least, and then brought him back. He revitalized it. So Jim Dickerson, I'm sure this wasn't expected. The position opened up really late recently, and he came out of retirement to take it after leading them to 5 state titles. So I think it's awesome that there are men like this, former head coaches that will be out of retirement, but sometimes opportunities open up and they get pulled back. So he's going to be leading his army on the field on Friday.
No doubt. And what's your thoughts overall about the program, just Clinch County itself? I know they had a pretty successful year. I think they went 11-2. Just talk about them as a program.
Well, they're South Georgia powerhouse. Gosh, it's slipping my head. There's someone from Clinch County recently that was a huge prospect. I'll have to look it up. But I think with them, they're always in that region with Irwin County, Charlton County. They're so competitive. That's a region where every year in the playoffs, they dominate the entire A public field, A Division II. So, and they'll even play up in classification against some other big time South Georgia schools. So I think it's exciting. There's a lot of pride at that school, and it's just I've never seen someone that retired in 2019 come back after that long of a hiatus.
5 years, yeah.
So we'll see how long it is. He is listed as an interim right now, but I feel like this season is just about the previous coach. I feel like something happened. I don't know what, to where he was maybe forced to resign. Maybe there's an issue, but I think this is the most logical, best case scenario for them.
Yeah, I agree, especially with obviously the falling out and their old coach leaving, and then obviously having to replace. Obviously comes in out of retirement, but at least you get a guy of the pedigree of a Dickerson, having won before, can resonate with the kids, and can still, whether it's for a year or two before you find that next guy, at least you can kind of steady the ship while you kind of wait.
Yeah, I also think it's pretty exciting for Dickerson's family. Just think about it. Your dad or husband, he's a head coach for all those years. He's been retired. It's almost like a movie script. He's been retired for like 5 years. And then it's like, we're going to be back in the game this year. So I think it's going to be very exciting. He's a big name, huge success, and see if he's still got it.
We will find that out, Craig. And then was there any other big coaching changes that you saw? I think we hit the main of them, but was there any other small ones that you've seen?
Not this week, just those two back to back. And then I'm actually interested. You've been to some of these spring practices. I'm seeing that a lot more this year than any other season, where people are going out to these spring practices and getting a head start on the season. So I want to ask you just about North Cobb Christian, because you've been following them closely. Matt Jones, their head coach, super young team last year. I don't think they overachieved. I think that was just what they've been building for. So what do you see just in practice with that group?
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of young guys they're dependent on, so they'll still be very youthful. They'll bring back their starters, BDG, Carrera, and then obviously Ray Dixon, who's been kind of gaining some steam in recruiting, up to like about 7 to 8 offers now. So those two will be the main guys off of the edge. Linebacker, they have Spears Martin. He's not playing right now. I think he plays baseball for North Cobb Christian. Obviously, you know how good they are, Craig, following baseball as you do. So they got him, and I think they got a pretty good
number one.
Yeah, number one. See, and then they got a pretty good corner in Dylan Rainey. That plays wide receiver as well. But wide receiver, they're gonna be young kids to know. DJ Huggins, he'll be 27. They're gonna play with him a lot. And then it'll also be Brody Archie. He's another one. And then a guy that recently started playing the sport. Pretty crazy, Craig. Turner Davis, 2025 class. Only's been playing football for a year. Primarily a cornerback, but plays some wide receiver for them as well. So that's gonna be a big player. They can depend on entering year 2 playing the sport, but very athletic, and will be big. And I think, as I've been telling you, Craig, I think Teddy's the next one up. When you look at 27s, and guys, obviously J.R. Harris is going to be one of those, but I think Teddy's right in that conversation. I think he could easily be a 4 to 5 star type quarterback. And peep this, Craig, when we last seen him at Elite Classic, he was about a good 5'9". He's 6'2", 185 now. So that goes to tell you. And he's been doing it naturally. I talked to his dad. They don't do anything He doesn't even really like to take protein. So all this is just natural eating, working out a lot. And what impressed me about Teddy too, Craig, was that after practice, 20 minutes. I mean, just going back, repping it up with his young receivers. Tells me he does that every time after practice. So that says a lot about a quarterback when he's doing that and repping up. And I think he's a true leader for that team.
Yeah, and a school like North Cobb Christian, when they're so good at baseball, when I see a guy that's emerged as a quarterback and can start as a freshman, it's like, that guy has an arm.
No
Because they
doubt.
could pull some dudes from that baseball team to come out there, but no, he is under the tutelage of Coach Jones, and anyone that watched North Cobb Christian last year, I think they're going to be very competitive. Was that their first ever playoff win too? I think.
No, they made second round before.
Second
That was
round
first
before.
region. That was first ever region championship for sure, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's tough to build a program like that. It's a small private school, and you look at across Metro Atlanta how many competitive private schools there are. To get that type of talent there, to get them to stay, commit, all the things they're balancing with academics. Sometimes the off-season schedules can be different in a private school. I just think they're dialed in to do something special. I think Coach Jones is just a down-to-earth guy that really cares about his team.
Yes, he does. 100% agree with that. I really was impressed by him, talking to him and how he looks at the game. And also shout out to Coach Hughes, that's the defensive coordinator. PJ Hughes does an excellent job with that defense, man. Shout out to you for the invite and having me come out. So definitely appreciate that. But yeah, I think they're going to, like you said, Craig, they're going to be a competitive team. And I can't wait to see the trajectory of the step they take. Like after, okay, won a region championship. And the thing, Coach Jones, as you mentioned, Craig said, he's like, oh, well, we wiping the slate completely clean. Like we're not even looking at last year. This is a completely new team. So I think that's good as well, because you're not harping on the success. You're looking at it a different year. But I want to see the trajectory that obviously Teddy makes, and then obviously those young receivers and weapons they'll be dependent on.
Yep, and with Teddy having that continuity coming back at the quarterback position, they know their identity now. So I mean, they're going to be really good at the things that they do day in and day out. So I mean, I feel like they're going to have a game plan every single week to execute, and they certainly will be excited.
No doubt.
So you had to leave from the office to get there.
Yeah, and I was
You got
actually
there in
late.
time?
No.
Yeah, I was looking at the clock. I'm like, how is he going to make it in time?
Man, no. I actually so their practice started at, it was supposed to be 3:30, but they didn't start at 3:45. So that helped me, that 15-minute grace period. But I actually missed about the first 35, 45 minutes of practice.
It's probably just warm-ups.
Yeah, probably just warm-ups. Yeah, a couple one-on-ones, but
yeah, hopefully we'll see them at maybe some 7-on-7s, but certainly, you guys, put them on your radar. They're going to be fun to watch, and yeah, super young, and I think this is their year.
100% agree. They're going to be fun to watch. That was one of the main teams. Appreciate you, Craig, too, for asking about that and bringing it up on the show. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. No, it was funny. I saw their North Cobb Christian bus for baseball pass that day. I was like, Najee's there. I was like, North Cobb Christian, what are the odds?
That's super cool. How are just real quick before we transition? How are their baseball teams so good year in year out? Because I heard like they're just next level from a couple guys that told me on the team.
Well, Cobb County baseball has always been fantastic. I mean, even I was born in 1988. That was right when they actually won the Little League World Series. A bunch of those names. What was his name? Something Bauer. He ended up playing for the Braves. So, I mean, Cobb County baseball has always been super competitive. And then they've been taking all that talent, bringing it to that school. And then if you look, they've actually played the last 3 seasons at Truist Park. Once the Braves made the move to Cobb County, and they're undefeated in that building. They played a big out-of-state game. This was last month. Ended up winning in dramatic fashion. So, I mean, they can handle it. I think this year you might see a potential rematch with their big Cobb County rival, Mount Perrin, in the state championship. But they are that team, and yeah, they've played some big games this year.
Interesting. Okay, well, Craig got me locked in on that. I'm definitely gonna watch out for them as baseball is winding down. Now, Craig, obviously, I got to lean on you for this because my knowledge is not to the degree your knowledge is on the Hall of Fame and the ballot and all these players. You've been doing it for over a decade. I've only been 2 years in, but tell me just a little bit about the Hall of Fame ballot. What's kind of your thoughts on that, Craig? Some of the players that got in. Has any got some good reaction, some bad reaction on social media? Just some people feel like Savannah players not really getting the just due or, being able to get on it. What's just your thought on the ballot itself?
That's a good point. I feel like with Savannah, they've gone overlooked for a long time in the sport of football. But just think about it. You got South Georgia, you got all the Metro Atlanta powerhouses, Middle Georgia, teams up north like Cartersville, Calhoun,
East Georgia.
Who's that Savannah school? I mean, Benedictine's been good, but that's a different story. That's an all-boys school, a military school, the only one in the state. So these Savannah programs have been getting it done for a long time, but it's been like an inconsistency. There hasn't been one program where you can expect them 10 wins every single season. So I feel like the board maybe, and then the coverage out of Savannah now is great. Dennis Knight, all those guys, probably the best anywhere in the state, just as good as Gwinnett County, the Marietta Daily Journal, the Gainesville papers. I mean, those guys cover it brilliantly. I just feel like in the 90s, 80s, some of that has been lost a little bit. So we'll probably look at those suggestions. Todd Holcomb does a great job and try to get some of those, I guess, guys on the consideration next year. Okay. But I do think it's been overlooked just because of South Georgia and Atlanta have kind of dominated the North-South.
No doubt about it. And then what was your kind of some of your favorite players that's on that ballot this year? Obviously, we haven't unveiled the class yet, so I had to go through a process for that. But just some of the players that you've seen.
I really like Alfred Jenkins. He ended up playing at Hogansville, a great receiver, and was the Atlanta Falcons' all-time leading receiver until, I believe, Roddy White broke that record. And he's still up there, top two. And then another receiver that I really want to see him get on, and I think he will, but Demaryius Thomas from West Lawrence. And if you look at it, obviously the tragedy happened last year, and then right as that happened, he got inducted into the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame for his career at the Denver Broncos. He got inducted last year into the Georgia Tech. So I feel like this year, the reason he wasn't on the ballot before is because he is one of the younger guys in that 2000s, but I feel like he's a really good chance this year, and I'd like to see him get on.
There you have it.
But it is interesting. So there's 100 names on this ballot. You've got 40 people that are making their first ever appearance. Alfred Jenkins is one. You got Demaryius Thomas, another guy, David Green from South Gwinnett, a Georgia quarterback legend for the Bulldogs. South Gwinnett was definitely not at the top tier of Gwinnett during that time. It was Parkview, Brookwood, all those other powerhouses. He took their record under head coach T. McFerrin from, I think, 1-9. They revolutionized the offense, brought him in, went to a passing attack. He led them to, I think, a 9-2 finish, 8-3. He was that big of a difference maker, and that's what earned him the scholarship. So I think he has an opportunity, but he's one of the 40. You've got 33 guys that have been on the ballot all 3 years. A lot of them have come super close to getting voted in. And then you have 27 guys that were introduced last year, guys that made the Hall of Fame last year after getting on with for the first time. That was Mike Bobo. He was one of them. I'm trying to think of some other names, but I feel like this year what I'm going to try to do on the ballot, I want to indicate on the 100-person one who has been on it 3 years, who has been on it 2, and who is new. And I feel like that's not going to necessarily influence people to want to vote for the guys that have been on it every year, but I feel like having that context, you'll be able to look at, oh, here's a guy I remember looking at his bio last year. Here's the new guy I'm going to consider. I feel like it's important to know kind of who's returning, who's new.
That's a good point, Craig. And let me ask you this, since you're a big part of the ballot, how many, because I know pro football is different, college sports Hall of Fame is different. How many years are you able to be on the ballot before your name gets off? Has that been established?
It has not.
Okay, gotcha. I just wanted to ask. I know each one is different. Okay, cool.
And so this year there's more people in the 2000s, and there has been, I think there's 19 total names. So that's new. Last year's only probably about 11. There are tons of newcomers in that most recent class. Guys like Avery Jones, Rashad Jones from Booker T. Washington. He was a phenomenal player, went to UGA, played for the Dolphins, a great safety. You got similar names from Dan Reeves was another guy that got in last year after getting on the ballot. But this year will be interesting. The first year, there were 45 people that went in, 9 automatic from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, 36 were voted on. Last year, 35, and then this year, just 30. We will have to vote from each category to make sure they all get in, and we're still waiting to see if there's going to be some criteria for linemen to get in. Last year, we took it to, regardless of who came in from each era, the top 10 vote getters that were linemen got in. So that was a little difficult in just, I guess, looking at the results, then adjusting them. But I think we'll get some linemen in, and we'll figure it out. But that's going to be, that process will play out probably in the next month. We'll know who's getting in.
There you go. All right, guys. So there you have it there on the Hall of Fame ballot. Our last high school topic before we go on to talk with Hayden and Max. Underrated and overlooked players, top 5 headed into the spring/summer. I'll let you start, Craig. What you got?
All right. My first one is Rashawn Truell from New Hampstead. Quarterback was fantastic last year, a multi-year starter, one of the best athletes anywhere in the state, did his thing in basketball also. I think he is one of the best competitors we have in the state. He refuses to quit in the game, refuses to lose. He's a true leader. We had his coach, Kyle Hockman, on the show last week. Coach Hockman was a former coach at McEachern. His son Bailey ended up going to Florida State, then NC State. So he's coached some great quarterbacks. He's always had a ton of speed on his roster, even at McEachern. I feel like their offense this year is going to hit the next level. And Rashawn Terrell he's getting a lot of recruiting attention right now, and it's about the arm velocity. He has a special zip on the football. I actually saw a comparison this last week. It was him and Patrick Mahomes both clocking in at 62 miles per hour.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So that's a fast football to catch, but he's got all the skill set, and I think last year really prepared him, just making that big run. All those, I think in previous years, New Hampstead was a team you could look at. It's like, man, they're right there, but they tend to lose those close games. Maybe that's a depth issue. But now, last year, they turned the corner, won a lot of thrillers at the end of the game. And I feel like Rashad is that leader they need, and I think he's poised for a huge senior season.
I agree with you, Craig. That's a good one. I was not thinking of that one. Definitely a good point out by you. That's one to watch, y'all. New Hampstead, Rashawn Truell. Mine is going to go to Langston Hughes. Got to go with the running back, Carson Baker. I can't wait to see what he does this season. He's going to be one of their lead tailbacks. He's going to take a big role this upcoming year for them. Obviously, he's going to be competing this weekend in the state finals in track and field 4x100 relay. So I can't wait to see the step he takes forward, man. I know they're going to have him prepared and ready. Has some pretty good size on him. But I think that's a player a lot of people are sleeping at the running back spot. It's going to have a big season.
For sure. Yeah, Hughes is going to be a really interesting team to watch this year. People are going to sleep on him. They lose Prentice Nolan, but they're going to have so much speed on that team. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And I feel like last year the receivers, their timing was off in some of those games. I feel like they just need to just get in sync, and that offense will return to form what we saw when they broke the state's all-time record.
Exactly.
So here's a name, my next guy that I feel like you're going to agree with me, Jude Cascon, 100% this year.
Yes. That's such a good name.
He's not necessarily underrated. He's been in the name, or he's been kind of household name around these recruiting circles. But if you look at him, he went from Marist his freshman year. It's a team that does not pass the ball much. He is a heck of a blocker. Last year, He was under the wing in this new Walton system. You had Hunter Teal, Jeremy Hecklinski's safety blanket. You had Jude coming in, having clutch catches, but also playing a role defensively. I feel like this year we're going to see him get the ball a lot more. He's going to fit into that invaluable tight end role that we'll have a new offensive coordinator. I think the thing with him this year is exactly what you said last week, yards after catch. If he has great hands, he's physical, he can block, but if he can start breaking tackles, having these big plays, he's going to be a complete tight end prospect that will just rise in the ranks and be a very clutch player for Walton.
I don't disagree. I mean, obviously, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the show with obviously bringing in Christian Ward, Alexander Ward, but he's going to be, as you've been saying, correct, the focal point of the offense. So that yak yard is going to be key next year, especially when, you know, they try to take away the deep threat that Christian is. They're going to need a guy, as you said, that safety blanket across the middle of the field that can get yards and be able to catch those intermediate routes and things. So I 100% agree, Craig. That's such a good point out. I still think he's kind of underrated to a degree. And I think he's going to blow up. You know what I'm saying? I've been saying that. I told him that. I told his dad that. I just, you know, I think he's on the right track. And when he has a bigger role, I think he's going to shine.
100%.
Yep.
I said last year, if he was still on Mayor's team, I felt like they would have made the state title. They were a couple plays away from winning that Thomas County Central game if they could just convert on third downs, but they didn't have the receiver that could get open or that target. I think he's going to have a big year and definitely take that next step. My next guy, he will be appearing for a team that won the state title last year. They'll be in one of the toughest regions anywhere in the state, and that's Ahmad Gordon from Perry. You look last year, heading into that Stockbridge matchup, he was pretty close to those Jaden Duke Scott numbers. And when Coulter Gann, Perry's quarterback, went out with that, I think it was a thumb injury, Ahmad stepped up. What Coach Smith does so well at Perry since he's been there, there's years where they're the best rushing team in their classification. They put up massive numbers. They'll put up 270 on the ground per game. Well, then in other seasons when they have an elusive quarterback, sometimes even a dual threat, you'll see them take advantage of that. Last year, Coulter was more of a pocket passer, so that was one of the best passing teams they've had. Well, this year, they return Ahmad. He can do it all out of the backfield and catch. He's going to be able to spark the home run plays out of the backfield. I feel like he's just going to have an insane season. It will be tough in that region, but it's coming off a year where he had over 2,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns.
I like your pick so far, Craig. Yeah. You getting on some real slept-on guys. You know what I'm saying?
Ahmad Gordon.
Yes. Stay note to him, man. I mean, he can absolutely ball. And as Craig said, not a lot of people talk about him. And I think he's going to be in store for a big season as well. My next two, I got to go receiver Grayson. We got to see him earlier or last year when they played against Archer, but now he's at Grayson, Craig, and that is Jonathan Stafford. I think he's in store for a huge season. I know they're loaded at receiver with him, Aiden Taylor, Alexander Sanchez. I know they got dogs at receiver, but I think he's just going to be able to take that offense to another level this year. I know they're going to have Travis Burgess at the quarterback, but I think him in that offense with that offensive coordinator, they got Keith Beresfield. I think it is going to reach new heights with him, and I think that offense is going to be one tough team to stop. So that's my next one. Another one is from local around here, close to us, and that's going to be Centennial's quarterback, Hunter Campbell. Also very high on him. I think this upcoming season, I heard he's grown as well, gotten a little bit taller. He's gotten sharper with his throws as well. And I think he's going to have a better season for Centennial, just depending if they can put it together defensively and get the stops. But I think they're going to be in store for at least, correct, 27-plus points per game this season just with him at the helm. And I think they're going to have a big year.
That's a good one. Yeah, Centennial will be interesting. They've had a lot of coaching changes, but I do think they have a chance to make a playoff run for sure. My next one, I actually had their head coach on the show last Friday. That's Heath Webb. Cal Faulkner from Lumpkin County. Last year in Class 3A, I felt like this is the team that no one talked about. They were 12-1. Everyone was focused on Calvary Day, Cedar Grove, and Savannah Christian, but they were phenomenal. He had just one interception last year. Coach Webb has coached plenty of great quarterbacks back when he was at Gainesville, Paulding County. I think he was at maybe even Milton back in the day. But Cal Faulkner, just watch out for him. I think Lumpkin County, they have a very favorable region. Last year was their first ever undefeated season. They returned all those pieces, and I think he'll be one of the best QBs in the state.
Don't disagree about that. Go check that interview. I actually watched it as well, and he talked, very highly of Kyle Faulkner, and I agree with Craig. I think he's going to be one that surprised a lot of folks. Just has one of those statistically great seasons next year out of Lumpkin County. So check him out. My next one's going to be running back from Commerce. That's Jaden Daniels. I know he plays in Class A Division II, but had a stellar year last year, of course, for over 1,000+ yards, man. Year in, year out, just a guy you can depend on. Can run in between the tackles, can catch out of the backfield, can pass block very efficiently. Could just do everything that you ask him to do, and what he's been able to do for Commerce and that overtime victory, leading them and rushing and putting his all out on the table. I mean, that just says a lot about who he is as a player and as a person. So recently received the U.S. Army Bowl invite to the game in Texas in December. So the kid's special. I think he slept on a little bit. Doesn't get necessarily offers the big time Power 5, but he's still going to be good. I think he's going to be special this upcoming year and one to watch.
That's a good one. All right. A lot of these names are guys that we have talked about, but Hughes, Maurice Gleaton, I think this is his year. Might be the fastest player in the entire state. And I just want to see those highlights this year. I see him. He's going to have tons of confidence in his speed, but if he can start if their quarterback has a big enough arm and they can threaten with that deep ball, he's going to draw so much attention, open up the entire offense, and I want to see him put on the burners.
No doubt. You know who the quarterback is?
You just said it, but I forgot.
Christian Langford.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they'll be good.
Yeah, that'll be the quarterback. I agree with you, Craig. I think that's a good point out. What I will say to add on to your statement is I think the receivers and the timing, as you say, getting everything together, I think they're going to be a lot better at the wide receiver spot because the coach they got was formerly at Cal. I think what he's going to be able to bring Coach Brown to that wide receiver room, obviously coached up Kyle Vaca this past year and obviously Peyton Zachary. I think what he's going to be able to bring to that room, holding those guys accountable, the track record success that he's had with some of these guys, getting them to the NFL, I think is going to be special. So I agree with you 100%. I think he's going to have a breakout year as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So, yeah, he went from Cal to there. Yep. I think he's the Western Kentucky product.
Yes.
Which they aired out. And then Christian Langford's very underrated. We didn't get to see him play last year.
No, it was at Buford.
Exactly. So I think he'll be ready to go. And, yeah, if that receiver room is all on the same page, they're just going to open up that offense. And that speed by Maurice Gleaton, this guy was basically winning the 100, 200, and the 4x100 last year in state as a sophomore. So he'll do it again this year, and just wait till he puts those cleats on.
That's it. It'll be a wrap. My last one is Dallas Carter. Plays for Augusta Christian. Plays a little receiver. Got some reps at running back as well. Also a great, I think DB as well. Peep the stat line, correct? He had 661 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns. Defensively, 55 tackles, 9 interceptions, led the entire GHSA in the state of Georgia. So that's somebody that caught my eye as well. Dallas Carter of Augusta Christian, I think, is in store for another big-time season.
Yeah, 9 interceptions is crazy.
9. Had 3 in one game.
It's Cormani numbers right there. We'll see what happens this year if teams will still throw to him. But, yeah, that's huge. I definitely want to look at. And then my last one, CJ Givers.
You've been hollering him for a while.
Fellowship Christian. And why is he so good? Well, he has that home run ability. I mean, last year in the Corky Cal, I mean, he'll have games where he has 3 touchdowns of 70 or more yards. Last year, I didn't feel like they relied on him too much. Obviously, you got to manage some of his numbers, but I mean, he's going to be able to get it done this year. But I think it's just his big playability and breakaway speed.
I agree. I mean, we've seen it week 1, and I think it's a guy that attacked both of us, I believe, and it was like, yeah, Craig and Naj was right on right on point with it, and he balled out in that game against Mount Pisgah Christian, going off, I think, close to 200 yards, if I'm not mistaken, in that game.
Like all in the first half.
Yeah, like all in the first half for a route. So that goes to show you, and I agree, he probably doesn't necessarily get all the love that he deserves being at a smaller school, but Fellowship Christian, as you know, Craig, has a lot of good players, him, Josh Petty, Evan Haynes. So I agree with you. I think he's going to be have another big season. As well. Is he 25 or 26?
He is
26, right?
26, yeah.
That's what I figured. Okay. Yeah, so I agree with Craig. That's going to be a major player. I mean, he's going to just come back even better and stronger this year, and I think he's going to have another big season.
Touchdown machine. He'll have over 30 this year.
No doubt. Can't wait. But that's our top 5 underrated overlooked players going into next season or into the summer. Obviously, we'll have more stuff we'll react to. But without further ado, we're going to go and jump into our college segment, find out the latest about Georgia from Hayden before we bring Max on. So let's get him on. All right. All right. What's going on, Hayden? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. Hold on. I cannot hear him. Hold on, Hayden. One sec. Let me see it real quick. I think I had to reconnect. Sorry, y'all. Give us one sec and reconnect. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right. Try it now. All right. What's going on, Hank? Can you hear us?
I can hear y'all. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Perfect. Sorry about that, man. Had a little connectivity issue, man. But
It's all good.
How's everything? How's your weekend?
It was good. Everything's going good right now. Getting ready for high school for spring practice or spring games coming up at the end of this week and next week.
Speaking of, before we hop into Georgia, is there any teams that caught your eye, Hayden, that you kind of excited to see or you want to go see out in person?
The big game that I'm going to try to go see is that Peachtree Ridge Milton game. I think that's going to be really interesting. Two amazing quarterbacks, a lot of high-end talent all throughout the rosters. I think that's going to be very interesting moving forward.
Did you guys see that tweet that Coach Reeves tweeted out this weekend of that art student that painted the game ball?
I think so, yes.
I did not.
That was pretty cool. Are you able to pull it up?
Yeah, let's see.
Will he be able to see it?
Yeah, I can share a screen with Hayden. Hold on, Hayden. We're about to show you.
Yeah, check this out. I thought this was so cool. And just think about this year. They obviously have an opportunity to win another one. But, I mean, what an incredible job the student did. And I think she's on the lacrosse team also. So she knows a thing about state championships. Go a little further. Man, he's been tweeting up a storm. A little further.
So let me know when you see it.
There it is.
All right. Boom. Hold on. I'm about to share it with you, Hayden, so you can see it.
So obviously Hayden was at this game too. We're chilling in that end zone. What do you think about that? I don't know if you can see it too much, but
that's amazing.
Right? Look at that. So that's the official game ball of their championship win. I think that's pretty cool. And I don't know if she has. I mean, how do you practice painting a football? But what do you think about that? Taking the game ball and painting it. Do you think that was a cool decision?
I think that's a really cool decision. Lots of teams will take the game ball and paint the score on it. I mean, they've just taken that step further.
I know. I feel like this year it's like they're gonna have to have a competition if they win again. Who's gonna be able to paint it?
No doubt. No, that's super cool. She obviously has some good artistic skill. And obviously, that resembles, the Molten Eagles. You got the eagle in the middle, and I think she did a great job.
I know. But I saw that and I was like, obviously I'm still bummed Walton didn't win it. But then I saw that and I'm like, man, Milton just keeps taking W's. Like that's the coolest thing I've seen.
No doubt, 100% agree. Great point out by you, Craig, as well. So we talked about those. So is that the main one you're trying to go to, Hayden? Is there any other ones that caught your eye for spring?
That's the main one I'm going to try to go to. I'm going to try to go to. I mean, I graduated from Flower Branch, so I'm going to try to go to their inter squad scrimmage, which is the next night.
Okay.
Who do they? Oh, the inter squad. Yeah. Who do they
Yeah.
play? What do you think about Flowery Branch though? Because you pointed out there's been like a lot of pressure on them. They've been in that like just fight to even make the playoffs in some of those tough regions. But do you feel like they've like last year gotten back on the right track?
I feel like there was some growth last year. They had a big senior class. I like some of the pieces moving forward, but I think at the same time it's kind of a make or break year for this coaching staff in year 3.
Interesting. And then I'm trying to think, who else in that Hall County area is Gainesville? Like, I mean, is that the premier rival, or are they going to be in there with Jefferson again?
They're actually moving down. They're moving down to 4A. Jefferson's moving down to 3A. They're going to be in the region with some of the other Hall County schools like Cherokee Bluff and some of the South Hall County schools. Flower Branch is going to be in the same region as Eastside, North Oconee, Cedar Shoals, Madison County.
Ooh. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. What do you think about Peachtree Ridge? I pointed out last year, actually, they obviously dominated in our Corky Kell 7-on-7, looked fantastic. But then they scrimmaged Kell in I think that was the fall, and got absolutely blown out. Kyle Vaca went off. I mean, they passed all over him. And so I was kind of mixed. And then obviously Najee was high on them. And then once the season started, they did a heck of a job. But what do you think just about that coaching staff with Coach Helmrich? You got Roddy White over there. What were you saying about how the kids have kind of grown up with a guy like Roddy White?
I think that coaching staff is one of the top coaching staffs in the state. I mean, we saw what Coach Helmrich was able to do at Johns Creek, turn that team into a really good program. I think they either made the quarters or semifinals his final season there. And then having someone like Roddy White, I mean, I grew up watching him. Every one of those kids grew up watching him. You're looking at a guy that any of those wide receivers idolized growing up, and now he's your head coach. It's just, I think it really helps when it comes to, there's some coaches that, especially with some players today, that they're not going to respect because they don't think they know what they're talking about. I don't think anybody can argue that Roddy White doesn't know what he's talking about.
100%. And the thing about him is like he came to the Atlanta Falcons like in a pretty rough time with Michael Vick and then the Bobby Petrino stuff, and then he stayed there the whole time. But what were you saying about like the kids? To them, Roddy's just like a coach. It's like they know he's one of the best receivers ever, all those 1,000-yard seasons, but just him as a coach, what do you think he's been able to kind of mean to those kids to have a guy like that going out there day in and day out?
I think he can instill a work ethic that very few other coaches can because of his stats, and 2, I mean, he's going to be able to teach footwork and route running in a way that no other coach normally can. He can teach just all kinds of stuff because he has experience playing football so much longer than most of the coaches ever could dream of.
Yeah, I mean, they would just be so cool. And Peachtree Ridge, they're going to be so loaded with talent. But like when I think of Roddy, I think of it was the 2012 season, right before they ended up falling to Kaepernick in the NFC Championship, but Roddy White against Richard Sherman in the round before. That was Richard Sherman. This is his best year, and he burned him on a couple plays. And so it's like anytime a receiver at practice is loafing, it's like Roddy can just show him the clips. I mean, he had some incredible performances.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he still is. I think Julio Jones passed him. I think when he retired, he was the all-time leader in Falcons in receiving yards and all kinds of just unbelievable Falcons records. And I think it's just I think it's really great for those kids.
Yeah, and what people don't know about Roddy, also, he grew up in South Carolina, but he was a state championship wrestler back in the day.
I didn't know that.
So, I mean, he knows about work ethic. I think it's awesome he's on the sidelines for them. But yeah, definitely that spring scrimmage is going to be off the charts.
No doubt, yeah. When you come back, obviously after it's over, we'll definitely have to get your intel on it, Hayden, and ask you what kind of went down, what was your thoughts, and react to it as well. But yeah, we'll keep it rolling. We'll go to Georgia. Just talk a little bit about that. So Kirby Smart gets the landmark deal, Hayden. $13 million annually now, highest paid coach in college football. What is your thoughts?
I think this is just one of those housekeeping things that every few years you have to do if you have an elite coach. You're giving him a higher salary. You're making it where it's harder for him to even think about leaving. And two, I'm sure if you look into this deal, they increase the buyout. So if any other school even thinks about wanting to get him, it's a possibly a 8-figure number that they're going to have to pay him to pay the University of Georgia to even think about getting Kirby Smart as their head coach.
And I was saying earlier, do you feel like Kirby, I mean, realistically, how long do you think he's going to be that head coach at Georgia? Do you feel like he's pretty much a lifer?
I think he'll spend the rest of his career at Georgia. After the way he talked to Nick Saban when after he retired or right before he retired earlier this year, I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that goes into their mid 70s. But I mean, he's in his late 40s, I believe. If he's not there, I would be surprised if he's not there for 15 plus more years.
And what do you think the key to Kirby Smart's success is going to be? Is it going to be his staff at just capitalizing on the hotbed of talent at Georgia? I mean, what about Kirby Smart do you think can make him that premier leader and kind of that superstar head coach at the college level?
I think it's the main things that already have championship teams. The transfer portal has caused some headaches, but every championship team is still built through recruiting and through a great coaching staff. Almost every one of these teams that have won a national championship has almost exclusively recruited their stars through high school, not the transfer portal. I think you're going to see. I think the not reliance on the transfer portal, but the willingness to go in and take pieces that are the final pieces to a championship team is what Kirby Smart has done very well. And it's the same things that Nick Saban and all other great coaches right now have done. That has left a few coaches behind as of right now.
And you brought up the transfer portal. How significant do you think it is for, I think he's mentioned it before, but Kirby Smart to kind of boast about his ability him and his staff to develop the players? Like, when you come to Georgia, we're going to develop you in this age where people are transferring and trying to get opportunities.
I think it's still the goal for all these players is to get to the NFL. One of these guys that's a top 100 recruit or even a high 5-star recruit, if they're looking at the big picture, really understand that $1 million here or there in college is not the same as at some of these massive contracts that are over $100 million, even for non-quarterbacks and non-wide receivers now. I think being able to preach, hey, we're putting 8, 9, 10 guys into the NFL every year really is what's going to help you win championships, because the kind of players that you truly want and that are going to help you win championships are really looking at the big picture and hoping to make it to the NFL and be great players at the NFL level.
And I think this week, it's not the official preseason rankings, but I think Ohio State might have gotten the edge for number 1. Vegas still has, I think, the Bulldogs as the favorite. And do you think that matters at all for that locker room to be number 1 preseason?
I don't think it matters at all for the locker room. To some extent, I think as a coaching staff that has used the disrespect card before, I think going into next season not ranked number one can really it can help them make the players work harder because hey, no, the media doesn't believe in you. They believe that Ohio State's better than you, and two, it just is. It means nothing because I mean, so many teams have gone into the season ranked number one. I think or even ranked highly. I think when Georgia won it in 21, Oklahoma was ranked second in the country to start the season, and they didn't even come close to that. And Ohio State's been highly ranked the past few years and has failed to make the national championship game, and last year and 2 of the last 3 years failed to even make the playoffs. So it really does not mean anything to that locker room, if I'm being honest.
Yep. In 2008, when I walked on there, they had just beaten Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl, their preseason number one, and they ended up losing to Georgia Tech at home at the end of the season. So, yeah, that number one, and they got creamed by Alabama that year. So I feel like, being number one, number two, it's not going to impact them. What do you think about Carson Beck being in that Heisman conversation this year?
I'm not. I think if you're going, I think it's hard to really put players in that to do it this early. One of the problems I see with Heisman is it's before the season. There's such a we rarely see someone that came from the season before that was predicted to win it the next year. I think part of that is high expectations for that player, and when they don't, we set such these high expectations. I mean, we saw it with. I think the two that I really think about are Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, where they both had great seasons after their breakout season, and they were both. But going into the season, they had such unbelievable expectations that every little mess up they had was nitpicked, and eventually, not that someone didn't that the person that won didn't deserve it. I think Lamar Jackson won it one of the years that Deshaun Watson didn't win it, and I think Derrick Henry won it the other. But it's that they are held to a different standard than the people that weren't expected to win it preseason.
What do you think's more likely, Carson Beck being a Heisman finalist or being a first-round draft pick?
Oh, first-round draft pick. Yeah. I think Carson is one of his it's not a problem, but one of his problems is that when it comes to the public perception is he's not a flashy player. He doesn't play in a system like Ohio State or USC where they're going to throw for 400 yards a game and then they're going to air the ball out. You're going to have at least one touchdown game of 50 plus yards. He plays in a system that is all about efficiency. It's all about passes 10, 15, 20 yards down the field to move the chains and a team that really likes to run the ball a lot. So it's really hard for someone like that to be a Heisman finalist, but the NFL doesn't really care about that, as we've seen with players like J.J. McCarthy, who just went in the first round this year's draft, where I don't even think he had the season that Carson Beck did last year, but he was still a high draft pick because NFL teams look at his potential and the tools he has and what he was able to do in college when he was given the opportunity to, and then they say, we think he's going to be a great NFL quarterback if we just give him more opportunity to be great. So they draft him in the first round.
No doubt about it. And then it's a pretty cool initiative that we got to see too. I want to kind of get your thoughts and share the screen with you, Hayden. But I thought it was pretty cool, especially for our state. But the Bulldogs actually partnered with the College Football Playoff Foundation to give away $40,000 through Georgia Teachers Initiative. I thought this was super cool. As you guys can see right here, Arian Smith, Jalon Walker, Malachi Starks, and running back Trevor Etienne visited Barnell Shoals Elementary, Gaines Elementary, Hillsman Middle, Whit Davis Elementary to give away $10,000 at each stops to help schools and individual teachers. The Bulldogs are able to support and uplift teachers from Georgia Teachers Initiative. The initiative created by CFP Foundation. Atlanta Football Host Committee aims to connect, celebrate, and provide resources for PK through 12 teachers in Georgia. So what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't think you can have any other thoughts except it's a great initiative, and I think it's great for the University of Georgia. I think it's really great for for those 4 schools that got $10,000 apiece for their teachers. And my understanding is those are going to go to school supplies and to help better the education of those kids at those schools.
What do you think, Craig?
No, I mean, it's big time. I think that's what we're going to see just in the era we're in right now with conferences reforming, TV contracts and stuff. It's like you look at programs like Ohio State and Georgia. I mean, the amount of impact and money and just community-wide initiatives they can do, it's unbelievable. I think Georgia is a great example, and yeah, the entire state loves them.
That is certainly true. Certainly true. All right, we got a couple more for you here before we let you go, man. Obviously, we know you cover the Bulldogs and you give us a lot of good intel, but give us a hot take you got for this upcoming season that maybe not a lot of people know about. I know you study the Bulldogs very hard. You read a lot about them. Give us a hot take going into next year.
That's really hard because I'm not normally one to make them. I think maybe it's not a hot take, but I think Georgia will finish the season undefeated. It's one of the toughest schedules I think they've ever had, but I really think that they're the best team in college football this year. I think they'll go 12-0 this coming season.
That is a bold take because, like you said, they do have a pretty tough schedule. So, now that's a bold one. Okay. So you, Craig, for any last question you have for them?
So they play the Alabama game. That's pretty early in the season,
That's
right?
Alabama,
September.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about, all right, looking at that backfield, do you think Georgia, I mean, what do you see them averaging per game just on the ground?
I mean, I think it's well north of 150 yards. I think you're, especially in some of the games against teams that really can't compete with Georgia's physicality. I think you're going to see a lot of games where Georgia just decides late in the game that it may only be a 2-score game, but they're just going to bully teams in the trenches and use at least those 2 running backs and Robinson and Etienne to just choke the life out of some of these teams and to just make sure that just put these games away, even though on paper they may not be as lopsided as they are when you watch the games. Sort of like some of the games last year where it may have only been a 2-possession game by the end of the game, but it never felt like it was a close game.
Yeah, I agree. In those games, the efficiency would be off the charts when you look at it. Where, I mean, time of possession, the amount of different guys that got involved. But I feel like that's something they should do. It's like when they're in these games, not the Alabama ones, where they have that big lead, it's important for them to get some of these guys involved, to get them the reps. But if you're able to just efficiently win these football games, go out injury-free, I feel like that's going to help you out in the long term. So I think they shouldn't shy away from running the ball, slowing down the game. Some of these college games feel like they're 6 hours long. So I feel like that's a good strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one thing that Georgia has done really well the last few years, even with, I think, a lesser running back room over the past 2 years. I mean, I think both those running backs, even though they weren't drafted, and Dejon Edwards and Kendall Milton will have good NFL careers and be on NFL rosters for a while. But I mean, they're not players that we've come to expect from the University of Georgia in the sense of they're not day 1 or day 2 draft picks at running back. Was still able to really impose their will on some of these teams. So I really think with 2 running backs that have the ability to be elite running backs, I think Georgia's going to lean on that more this year than they did last year.
Yep, man, I can't wait to finally see this team.
You excited, huh?
Yeah, I want to see the offensive line. I want to see, because we're really going to be – I think there's going to be some starters that are interchangeable at some of these positions, but we're going to have to wait to see once it starts.
One thing, and we'll let you go, Hayden. One thing I cannot wait, and we definitely got to do this when Georgia Bama plays. We're gonna do a split screen with all of us, Max, Hayden, just reacting to the game, getting the hot takes, going at it. That is going to be epic, I think, for the show.
Yes,
especially with two
early in
Georgia
the season
fans.
too.
Yes, so I think that's gonna be epic. I can't wait for those debates, and then it's getting y'all intel because I know Hayden's gonna be watching the games on Saturdays. I know Max is too, so I can't wait for the season kickoff because those debates gonna be epic.
It's gonna be fun, guys.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, Hayden, we appreciate you, man. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
All right. So there goes Hayden. We don't got too many topics we're gonna hit on in the college football kind of sector. But while we wait for Max a little bit, what's kind of your thoughts? I thought Duke the Scoop had a pretty good argument against Colorado, the team that receives a lot of hate. Obviously, you've been high on them for a little while, Craig. I'm high on them too. But just what do you think about just the kind of perception that they're kind of seen as by media and pundits around and everything? What's your thoughts on that? The negativity and stuff.
I think last year some of the negativity came just because they dominated those first 3 weeks of the conversation so much that people, once they kind of got knocked off it's almost like a movie script. I mean, they were the biggest story in the country, and then once they got knocked off, people just, I guess, relished in their spiral. So I think some of it was because of that. They wanted to see it kind of continue. They didn't want to see him get back on track. I just feel like this year's team is going to look a lot different.
Yeah.
There'll be probably a little less trash talking from their end. But yeah, I feel like it won't be as bad as last year.
No, I don't think so. I think there'll be more business. Obviously, it's tough because, Deion's a persona in himself. So he's going to, generate that natural attention as well. But as you said, it shouldn't be as much. We haven't seen as much talking maybe as we seen maybe last year. But then again, we'll know because pregame might be different too. That's where they got a lot of that kind of, notoriety a little bit coming in and from people. But like you've been saying, Craig, I think if they can make a bowl game this year, have about 8 to 9, 10 win kind of ratio, maybe be in that college football playoff conversation, that's a successful year. You doubled your wins and you're in that conversation after a program that has not won for years.
Yeah. But yeah, there'll be less talking. Maybe if they start winning, they'll start talking again, but I don't think it compares to last year. And I think that was a result of them starting so hot and then people just piling on.
100% agree. But we'll leave it there. Our next Max is ready for us to talk a little bit about Alabama football, man. So we're going to bring him on. All right. There he is. What's going on, Max?
How we doing, guys? Good to see y'all.
Good to see you too, man. No complaints, man. So you got your Celtics gear ready. I know you're ready for the game tonight.
A big game tonight. Big series coming up.
No
Can't
doubt
take
about it.
anything too lightly these days. You'd think.
That's true.
They'll drop one or
That's
two.
True. Maybe one at most, man. The Cavs ain't ready for y'all, man. Cavs ain't ready, man. It'll get a little bit more interesting when the conference finals comes, but man, I think y'all got a direct shot. This should be Boston's year. And it looks like, before we go to our football, it looks like Minnesota might pull off that upset, man.
Yeah, they're for real. They do not mess around, do they? They clamped up Jokic and Murray last night and put them in a blender and they were in a cage. They couldn't do anything last night. Especially Murray was like 3 of 18 last night. I don't know what happened, but they were all over him. No, not at all.
Yes, 100%.
Not at all.
All right, Max. So we've been talking about this DB room a lot with Bama. A couple guys transfer out, right? We talk about some of the veterans coming in. One, I think, was from Arizona State. Talk about the young guys that we know about pretty well here, the 3 guys. But what's your thoughts on Alabama, Peyton Woodyard? He was very highly rated coming out of high school. Eventually transfers to Oregon. I think he's going to definitely beef up their room and their DB room going into next year. Obviously, you guys had maybe, I think, a couple transfers coming in. But what's your thoughts on him transferring out?
Yeah, so Woodyard was a 4-star coming out of high school and was a 3-year starter at St. John Bosco Prep in California. He was the number 115 player in 247 rankings and number 8 safety nationally. So it's kind of a loss in terms of having depth on that back end of the defense. But it could just be a testament to what Devontae Smith is becoming and what Red Morgan is becoming and what all the young talent is becoming on the back end of the Alabama defense at the safety and the corner position. So with those guys and then the addition of Keon Sabb as well with some college experience under his belt already from Michigan, maybe the room was getting a little too crowded, and maybe he wanted to not as much wanted to compete, but more go get his playing time somewhere else. So yeah, it's tough to see him go, but hope all the best for him.
No doubt. And then did he play a lot this past year? I didn't see his name a lot.
So he was coming in as a freshman.
Got it. Coming in as okay. Got you. So
Yeah.
when we got it probably pretty crowded. Got you. Okay. Cool. All right. And then you guys had another DB that transferred as well. Tony Mitchell said to enter the transfer portal. I seen the news this week on him. What's your thoughts, reaction to that?
Yeah, it's sad to see him go as well. A lot of hope for Tony Mitchell just because of what he started out as and then what he became. He had gotten some trouble early on and then sort of figured it out on the way, and then got some reps in A-Day and looked kind of sharp, but then I guess he's heading elsewhere as well. I guess it's another testament to just what these young guys bring to the table so far. I mean, Tony Mitchell I thought was going to have an opportunity early on, but with Mbakwe and Brown and Mincy as well, I think those guys are going to provide more of the depth at the cornerback position. And then they're looking at the portal as well for a couple of new guys. One from Wake Forest, Deshaun Jones, another from Penn State and King Mack, and then one from Indiana as well, and Kobe Minor. So, yeah, it could just be them looking around because they want that experience on the outside at some important positions, but it's a shame to see Tony Mitchell go.
Yes, it definitely is. And then Craig asked a great question a little bit about power rankings to Hayden, and obviously we see Bama kind of plummeting a little bit to like 4 to 7 on some of these preseason power rankings. Obviously, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But what's your thoughts on that? If you had to do a ranking for Alabama, where would you kind of put them in your ranking as a top team in the country?
I believe it's fair. I believe the 4 to 7 ranking, I believe where that in that range is fair, just like with the new coach, new staff, basically a whole new team, except for a couple of guys starting on the a couple of guys returning starters. But yeah, I believe it's fair. I don't think those rankings matter very much. I don't think anything really matters in terms of rankings until November when the playoff rankings come out, and that starts to shake things up and get stuff going. But yeah, it's just I think it's a fair ranking in that range for sure.
And Max, what do you think the overall reason was for those transfers out of Alabama? Do you feel like part of it was on Alabama's end with the number of available scholarships? Do you think they were forced out? I mean, what do you think was behind that? Because you guys don't have too many safeties on scholarship right now.
Yeah, I think it was more of having just some experience under their belt, because there would have been a lot of, like with Woodyard and Mitchell as well, there would have been a lot of freshmen at corner and at safety, and it would have been led by Malachi Moore, who is an experienced player for Alabama, who has seen a lot of games. And I think they just wanted to help him and add some more depth there. And then they started with Keon Sabb early on in the portal from Michigan, and he kind of got some reps in the A-Day as well. And then going from there, I think they want to have a good mix of these young guys because they know they have talent with the 3 5-star freshman corners. It's just a matter of mixing that in with some experience and making sure everyone is in the right place at the right time.
And how much do you think it was Oregon maybe poaching a player because they were in maybe desperate need, where they just kind of made an irresistible offer?
I think maybe it was kind of the same saying, but right place, right time for Oregon. Just he transferred, put his name in the portal from Alabama, and I don't think it took very long. I believe it happened within the week last week that he visited Eugene last weekend. I think he committed on Sunday. I believe it was very quick, the quick turnaround after that. But yeah, it's just a shame to see him go, and I hope all the best for him.
Yeah, I mean, this is wild. Do you guys know when the deadline for the transfer portal ends? Or is there a specific window? I was trying to look it up.
Closes soon, though.
I think the window, I believe, is still open. Because I think there was – because there was the whole – people were talking about it for a while. It's closed now.
Yes, sir. Via
22
CBS
hours
Sports.
ago.
Yep.
I think there was like a 2-week period in April.
Yeah, spring size windows, not only
like that.
small in size, 14 days, and the winter windows also like the same drama as Heisman moves. Yeah, so I think it just wrapped up because I remember it opened in April and then they get ended like early May. Yeah, so that is officially closed. Yes, sir.
And then there was a lot of chatter that people that you wouldn't expect like to be in the portal, they were getting offers from other schools, and then nothing really kind of came off of that. But it was supposed to be, a lot more, how do I say it, a lot more competitive than it was. And then it did turn out to be nothing, just a bunch of chatter. It was still exciting.
Yeah, I feel like we saw a lot of defensive backs, whether it's Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, have the experience and then transfer. So it's interesting. I feel like some positions is harder, but I mean, if you can play,
it's a new.
I was just gonna say, if you can play in the secondary, it's pretty evident.
That is true.
And
yeah, I agree. I believe if you have experience playing in college, and if they see the talent that you have, then you should be able to fit anywhere, especially playing corner and safety as well.
Yep. And it's like when you watch DB film, Najee points out on his show, it's like you can tell people that study the game, they understand the routes. So it's like you know exactly what you're getting. Guys that have the speed that look confused out there, no. But guy that comes from a system like Alabama, I just feel like Oregon. I mean, some of the headlines suggest it's like these teams that end up landing these transfers, like they're definitely offering them a pretty significant incentive to go to their school.
For sure. And Oregon, not too long ago, Oregon took Kyrie Jackson from Alabama, who was a JUCO transfer who started at corner in 2020, and he transferred after Georgia beat Alabama in the national championship. And Dan Lanning turned him into, I believe he just got drafted, second, third round. He was up there. Let me look that up. But yeah, he's got experience in building those guys and turning them into NFL players. Let's see. He was drafted in the 4th round by the Vikings.
So does this raise any concern about the depth in the secondary, or you feel like you guys will be able to get?
I feel like they will have it handled. I think getting the young guys on the field as soon as possible will be definitely beneficial. Just as much reps as they're getting now in practice, I don't think there's anything like actually getting out there in the game. So for them to actually get out there and have their opportunity early on can only help them from here on out.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch. We talked a little bit about with Hayden too, just to see what they're able to do. But yeah, new pieces coming in, young guys, a little bit of veterans, guys moving out, moving in. Transfer portal now closed, so now that obviously unlocks summer practice. Now, obviously, you got different things, guys taking vacations and stuff like that. No school, so I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what we hear out of practice. But we'll just ask you real quick: what is the latest you're hearing? We didn't put it as a topic, but what's the latest you're hearing about just recruiting? Any guys that kind of high on Bama that you've been seeing that may have been crystal ball to Bama potentially recruiting here as it starts to heat up?
As far as I know, the transfer portal is closed, but I believe there is still a few guys that entered before it did close. So Bama's looking at, I think I mentioned them earlier, Deshaun Jones from Wake Forest, who is a 3-star transfer. He had 37 tackles last year and led Wake Forest with 3 interceptions. So they're looking at 3 transfers who are all defensive backs, and they're just wanting to beef up that secondary and put the experience out there. So Jones is one of those guys, and then they're looking at King Mack as well from Penn State, who is a 4-star transfer at 5'10", 190 pounds. Played mostly special teams, but will add some depth in the secondary for Bama. And then last would be Kobe Minor, who's a 6 foot, 185-pound corner from Indiana. He started his career at Texas Tech and played over 20 games for them. He started in 11 last year for Indiana, I believe, and had 29 total tackles in 11 games. So adding that experience on the outside on that defense will definitely be huge for them.
No doubt. And then as far as the recruiting class, obviously we hit 25. Is anything you seeing on that realm, just high school recruiting, any guys that might be narrowed down the list? There's one guy seen from Georgia. You probably don't know a lot about him because he's kind of been gaining more traction, but he's a 4-star. It's Lagonza here out of Toombs County, but I heard he just narrowed down his top 7. I believe Bama's on that list as well. But just what are you hearing, just the latest from what you've seen on the Twitter sphere about Alabama recruiting for high school?
Mostly I've been seeing just the transfers. I need to be looking more at the high school guys soon, more, but I've just seen mostly just the transfers, just kind of beefing up what they already have.
Gotcha.
We're going to talk about it later, but Javon Baker, he had an interesting quote. Just talk about what you think he's going to be able to do at the NFL level.
I think he'll get his opportunities early. He was a guy who sat behind great receivers at Alabama and was with those guys in that receiver room in Tuscaloosa and transferred to, I believe he was going to transfer to Kentucky, and then he may have played a season there and then went to UCF and had that great season last year. He's very athletic, great. He's got great hands, great size and speed for a wide receiver, and the confidence is there from the start. And everyone can already see that with that funny quote that he had about making people in wheelchairs stand up. But I think he'll be effective, and I definitely think he'll get his chances early on with New England.
Yeah, it's an interesting guy with that much confidence that had to transfer schools and all that, but still, yeah.
Yeah, the talent's definitely there, though, I believe. Yeah.
Then anything you're looking forward to? Obviously, summer camp gets started in a bit, but to me, this is the period of the season, I'm just going to be honest, where it's just like all these teams cross their fingers that no one gets in trouble.
Yeah, it's just a time of like making sure everyone's going to practice, everyone's learning, at least for Alabama right now, everyone's learning a new playbook, everyone's getting acclimated with the new coaches and the new system. Just a time for get right before the fall hits. That's how I see it.
Final question, Max. We'll let you get out of here. We guys hating this, but what games are you excited to see, or maybe even teams on the high school level that you want to kind of get a chance to see if you can for spring, whether it's practice or as far as the spring game? I know Hayden said Milton, Peachtree Ridge he's trying to go to. What is one that you're interested in seeing?
At least a team I'm interested in seeing. Well, I know it's kind of obvious answer, but Carrollton always be interesting just to see Juju in person for the first time. I think that would be very interesting. And they've been producing last year. They had Caleb Odom, and yeah, I'm just excited to see that offense and what they're all about over there. It's my first time ever experiencing Georgia high school sports, so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good time.
No doubt about it. Yeah, you will see a lot, my friend. In the first year, you're gonna be like, whoa, Georgia football is different. I mean, yeah, it's definitely top tier, and definitely gonna see some pretty good games this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it. Excited to get out there finally.
Yes, sir. All right, Max. Well, that's all we got for today. Appreciate you coming on. We'll bring you back again in next week. Talk a little bit more about Bama and the latest around recruiting, man. So thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me.
All right, guys. So there goes Max. We'll wrap up the show. Go to the third segment of the show. Obviously, we'll talk about Javon Baker in just a second, but let's talk about OBJ on our NFL segment. He just signed a 1-year deal. Pretty good incentives, 3 years, $3 million, I should say, up to $8 million in potential compensation. What's your thoughts?
I don't see a problem with it. He's obviously late in his career. He's coming off that ACL injury. He hit his first 100-yard game since, I think, 2021 last year. I feel like he'll be able to make an impact. I think he's past that point in his career where he's a distraction or whatever. I think Miami's going to be an exciting team. They've obviously got some of the best receivers in the entire league already. So I think he just adds something to that receiver room, and I think it's a good 1-year situation for him, and he'll probably have fun in Miami.
I'm sure he will have fun in Miami. 100% agree with you, Craig. I think he provides a good depth for them. I think something they were missing out on was that third guy kind of coming out last year, but at least you got a guy, a proven veteran that you know can come in, and you don't have to depend on him overly. Like, you got Tyreek, you got Jalen Waddle, so you got almost like a guy that can be a threat over the middle of the field in the slot, and hopefully, with OBJ just staying healthy. He's experienced a lot of injuries over the course of his career. Just seeing if he can stay healthy, but not a bad compensation deal. Got $15 million from the Ravens the year prior. Pretty good target for them, but definitely can see him getting 400 or 500 yards this upcoming year, being a no, good target for them.
Completely agree. I don't think it's a bad deal. People, obviously, because he's older, he's been almost a journeyman the last few years. But I mean, I think it's fine. I think with the pieces around him, he can definitely go out there and make some plays.
No doubt. You just got to make the most of it, as you said, correct? Because, like you said, his career's coming down to the stretch. So at least now he's playing for contenders. Like Baltimore last year, Miami has a potential chance in that AFC East, especially with what's going on with the Bills. So at least he gets to play for contenders, perennial playoff teams.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to watch.
No doubt. All right, Craig. So we'll go to that quote. You talked about Javon Baker. It basically said there's not 10 receivers better than him already in the NFL. I thought that was very bold. We talked about it with Max just now, and that he could make people in wheelchairs stand up. What's your thoughts on that? It's bold.
So I want to start with the 10 players that aren't better than him quote first, because that is pretty rare to see that from an incoming guy, because there's guys that will come in and say, I want to be the best receiver in the league, or they'll say, I think I can be the best. He's looking at it before he gets there and saying that he's already top 10. That's disrespecting so many players at once. It's unbelievable. And so I think it gets a lot of attention for that reason. People are like, wait a minute, what? He said he's top 10 before he's even – who is this guy? But I like the confidence. I just think the top 10 thing's odd. I think he has to reveal his top 10 if he's going to say that.
I think that's a good point when you look at it to see.
It's like, who do you think's better than you then?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what receivers would you say? I mean, like you said, from a confidence perspective, I mean, you got to have that confidence, if you're going to play receiver or any position in the NFL. Like, you cannot not be confident. You have to be. So I 100% agree with you, Craig, on that. But like you said, it is bold. So it's going to garner headlines. It's going to draw attention to you. And then, that's kind of bold. I mean, obviously, they got Drake May, which was a good draft pick. But, the problem is, Craig, like New England's been needing a receiver for the longest, right? Ever since, even in the Brady era towards the end of his career, like they've been needing receivers. So I like the confidence going in, but he's definitely going to have to live up to it. And you know how the media does, Craig. I think it was Jamar didn't even say it. So I'll go back to this real quick and get your thoughts on this. So Jamar said coming in I want to break all the records. Never said he was the best. He was just like, I want to break all. And then I think it was I can't remember the reporter name, but it was a woman reporter, and she was like, how about winning a game first or something like that she had said. And then he had started getting a lot of pressure because he was dropping balls in the preseason. There was all this extra BS on it, and now you see what become top receiver. So nothing wrong with the being extra confident. But what's your thoughts on that? Just, obviously, media's going to have it out. So they're going to expect him to play at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly confident. He views himself as a complete receiver. He can stretch the field. He averaged nearly 22 yards per game. I think he isn't scared of any defender. He thinks he can get open and win that matchup. I just think the whole top 10 thing, that's weird. That's weird to say, because you're putting it's like, okay, well, who is better than you then? Do you think you'll get to that level? And then you're just disrespecting so many different receivers, and you're putting that, basically disrespecting the league as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. I think he could have curbed. He'd be like, I want to be one of the best receivers all time.
Exactly.
You see a lot
that's
of players
what we're used to saying.
Yeah.
Not
I'm top 10 now.
Yeah.
That's kind of bold.
Entering a singing competition before anyone even hears anyone. You're just like, well, I'm better than everyone. Everyone's like, well, got to see you do it first.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
I like his confidence. Just sometimes receivers can
overstep.
Yeah. And then you have a bad game or come up short, and then it becomes a distraction.
Media's going to be on you. That's why I was bringing up Jamar. That's all he said. I was going to break records, and then they were on him, even preseason. So that goes to show you right, Rick. So hopefully he can handle the attention because it's going to come his way, especially if New England struggles or he's not having the type of games that he's supposed to be having.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of frustration from receivers the last few seasons. I'm thinking of the Las Vegas Raiders. Who was that?
Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just don't get into that situation where the ball's not coming your way in the game and you're too focused on comparing yourself to other people.
It's a good point, Craig.
But no, I like Javon. I think he's the real deal. But the quote, it just disrespects so many players at once, where it might not be the wisest choice of words.
Definitely
say
not.
I want to be top 10, not I already am.
No doubt. And then you're giving bulletin board material to your opponent too.
Yep.
So we'll see, though. We'll definitely be tracking that this season to see how he does and reacting to this quote as it goes on. But kind of last topic, Craig, to close us out. What draft picks from your favorite team are you most excited to see this year? I mean, obviously, you talked about the picks last week, but we didn't go into big detail. But what pick are you most excited to see off the Chiefs?
Oh, I was going to say Michael Penix. I'm just kidding. No, Xavier Worthy, of course. I think
That's funny.
I am interested in that. But I think Xavier Worthy, in terms of first-round picks and then the expectations immediately year one, they're off the charts. And what he did at Texas last year was incredible. But we're seeing him go to a Chiefs team where that's the missing ingredient, that speedy, take the top off receiver these last few years. So I think he can make a huge impact, make some really exciting plays, and I think he's just perfect for that situation. So I can't wait to see him. He's needed. He's going to have a specific role that I think will grow in the years to come. But this year, we know what he can do with his speed, and it's time to let him loose.
Simple as that. I think for me, obviously, I could go with the draft pick, obviously the first one they had. But I'm going to go with some underrated gems. I'm going to go with Eric All, the tight end. Obviously, he's had some health concerns, but I would love to see us get a tight end that can help. Obviously, we got Mike Gesicki, who's great, but only a one-year deal. So we'd love to see a kind of young tight end come in. Obviously, him, Tanner, would be two guys probably battling out. I doubt they keep 5 tight ends before it's said and done. And then Dejon Anthony, he's such an interesting prospect. Got him in the 7th round. Will be a safety, but I want to see if he can just, kind of have an impact. Obviously, they're going to have Jordan Battle, I have Von Bell, Geno Stone, but, it's always interesting to see guys that played a certain position, how they come in the NFL, they transition. We had our former safety, Dax Hill. He's now a corner now for us. So I know he's going to play probably a lot of slot, guard up against the taller tight ends and things like that. But I want to see what role he's able to carve out if he can make the team at the 7th round, and what kind of role can he carve out for them, whether it's special teams or, being able to have an impact on certain downs and distances, during the season. So those are my two I'm kind of excited to see. I could go with the, natural selections, the Marius Mims or the Jermaine Burtons, but I like to kind of go a little bit out of the box. So I'm going to go with those two.
It's a good one. And I'm going to go with, Kingsley. I still don't know how to pronounce his last name from BYU, but I liked his film. He's absolutely massive. I think he's athletic, can get to the outside, and like to see him bulldoze some guys in the secondary.
No doubt. I mean, you guys have been kind of hurting that tackle a little bit in recent years, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good insurance plan. Obviously, you get another guy to come in, add some depth to your team, and a guy you can depend on for 4 to 5 years.
Exactly. And he has that upside where he is a little raw because he kind of late bloomer in college. He's so big. But, just watching his film, he can just knock those hands down and then immediately punch you back. And he's so big. I think he can make a big impact and turn some of those maybe first down conversions into touchdowns with some of the speed that the Chiefs are going to have this year.
No doubt. And then I don't know if you know this, Craig. Actually, shout out to Daniel. He's here, but he actually pointed out to me and Max. But the schedule release is actually this week. I heard Thursday. So obviously we'll react to that next week. But what team are you most excited to see maybe on the Chiefs schedule? Are you kind of a matchup you're looking forward to that they could potentially play before we wrap?
Oh, man. I need to look. Who were they crossed up with in the NFC?
Good question. Let's see. I don't know off the top of my head. Let's see. All right, so there are your opponents. Okay, so NFC, you guys are playing NFC South. Yep. So you can get it, see Phoenix maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just playing.
Oh, man. Well, I think the Steelers will be interesting this year.
Yeah, and that's a road game.
Yeah, with their new quarterback situation, it's always a pretty heated rivalry. Depends what week of the season that comes, but I think that could be a very exciting game. And then obviously the Bengals always.
For sure. I'm going to go Baltimore for y'all schedule. That's going to be interesting, especially you guys knocked them out. Home game. I think that's going to be intriguing.
Yep, and they certainly have had a good offseason.
Yes,
They'll be ready to go.
no doubt.
But yeah, Steelers, I think they'll be interesting as well. Pretty tough schedule, but I mean the NFC South, we'll see. See if they can compete with the Chiefs.
For once.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's all we got. We'll react to the schedule release, obviously, next week. I think it comes out this Thursday. So we react next week, give our thoughts on it. Big matchups that we're excited for our teams, and then just kind of overall matchups as well. Obviously, with the latest with Georgia and Bama, and then the latest high school news. So we appreciate y'all tuning in. That's all we got for today, and we'll see you guys next week.